Well, why not? This is As Above, So Below. I've seen this one a bit ago, but I decided that I might just talk about it. I didn't feel like doing it beforehand, but I feel like doing it nowhand. As Above, So Below is a found footage type of film, and I honestly like this style of films. I enjoy the Paranormal Activity movies, at least the first 5. I enjoyed Blair Witch, I enjoyed the Chernobyl Diaries. Lured is good, Followed is good. There's a lot of decent films. Cloverfield. There's a lot of decent found footage films, and there's plenty I haven't yet seen, and I plan to eventually see those too. Like I've heard stories about Rec being good. .rec. I heard that's good. I heard VHS is good. So I'm gonna take a look at those. Yeah, eventually. Not now. Maybe not in the future, like immediate future, but eventually we'll get around to them. But today we're getting around to this one. As Above, So Below is directed by some John Eric Dowdle. No idea who that is. I don't know if you have any idea who that is either. This might be considered a very average film in regards to found footage, in regards to filming in general. It's a very average film with a very interesting idea. A group of people, a documentarist, an explorer, and some natives of Paris decide to go into the underground catacombs, the undercity of one of the oldest cities in Europe. At least, one of the oldest, still city, whatever. One of the undercity cities of the undercity, there's a Paris undercity, whatever, I don't care. So, they want to go under there looking for the tomb of an alchemist by the name of Nicholas Flamel. If that name is familiar to you, it should be. It is the name of the person who figured out the Philosopher's Stone, or as we ye be in America, the Sorcerer's Stone. Yes, Harry Potter, the first film. It deals with Mr. Flamel, who is based off a real person named Nicholas Flamel. He didn't figure out the Philosopher's Stone. He did not discover the secret of immortality because he's dead. And he's dead in this one too. But it appears it's kind of like how would we describe how this stone works? It's kind of like the portrait of Dorian Gray. Apparently there is like a mirror world, a mirror reality, so to speak, and you could transfigure your agingness to the other yous in the other you reality, in which case you would remain unchanging, unaging. You would heal from wounds and all that stuff, and you could transfer all of that to the other realities you. As our protagonists eventually dropping off one by one, as you do in these types of films, as they make their way to Nicholas Flamel's tomb in the undercombs of Paris, they find that his body looks perfectly preserved. He's just sitting there in the open air. He was perfectly preserved. The stone isn't with him, of course, but he is perfectly preserved. And they're like, how did this happen? He's been here for a long time, but he's not decaying. There's no decay. And so our characters go further down, deep down into the Underdark, and they find the stone on a sort of Egyptian carving that seems to have been taken from somewhere else and brought here. And this carving has a story in hieroglyph Sumerian. I don't know what language. It's some old language. They had to have an interpreter guy come down there with them to read these inscriptions, and they learn about the story of the stone and all that stuff with hell and the abandoned hope, all ye who enter here, or that story with the whole Dante's Inferno. And there's a lot of that going on in here. We'll get into that in a bit, but I want to talk about the whole mirror world theory that I have. So they go and they grab the stone, right? And then a booby trap happens because there's treasure all over this room with the stone. You're only supposed to touch the stone. You know this story. You've heard this story hundreds of times. How you go into a room full of treasure and there's only one thing you're supposed to take. For example, at Aladdin, there's the Cave of Wonders. You're only supposed to take the lamp, even though there's like billions and trillions of dollars worth of gold everywhere. You're not supposed to touch that. You're only supposed to touch the lamp. But of course, you have somebody who's going to touch the gold and trigger a trap. That's just what happens in this thing. Somebody touches the other gold that's not the stone, and they trigger a trap. So they block off the exit, and they have to find another way out. And so, now that another one of our characters have died, the remaining group have found an exit of sorts, which is further deep and down dark into the Underdark. And they find an inscription saying, "Abandon hope, all ye who enter here." So, they go further down. And they come out, strangely, in this same treasure room. But the ceiling hasn't collapsed in this room. The treasure room is fine. The ceiling, which is starting to become very, very strange. Why are they in some sort of mirror room here? Well, whatever. We go down to Nicholas Flamel's tomb, and they find that the corpse here is a skeleton. This one is decayed. Decayed. This one is... And it's like... Is this a mirror reality of sorts? Is this a... You know? So... Like, they crossed the threshold from one reality into another. So let's say that this is Nicholas Flamel's tomb. There's his corpse here. He is perfectly preserved. He is perfectly fine. There is a mirror reality where he is not perfectly fine. So the treasure room here, where the little stone tablet with the stone, somebody takes the stone, right? Our characters here, they take the stone. But another character, he takes a pot of gold or whatever, right? And then the ceiling collapses down upon them. This room is perfectly preserved and fine. But, so now they have to find a way out of this room. And they're now in some sort of alternate version. A mirrored reality, so to speak. And now, in order to get out, like in Pirates of the Caribbean 3 at World's End, up is down. Up is down. Well, look, as you can see, it's down for you, but, you know, up, down, whatever. You know, so up is down. So now these guys have to go up, which is actually down, to get out. But as they keep going up, which is actually down, they're starting to encounter more and more creepy things. There's these robed people wandering the hallways, and there's torches lit, and they're like, "No, are we supposed to be down here? Why are these torches lit?" And then one of our characters encounters a car that's burning. How did a car get down here? Well, I haven't talked about this earlier, but before they even reached Flamel's tomb here, there was various furniture pieces, like a piano that one of our characters recognized from their past. There was a telephone that one of our characters recognized from their past, and one of them picks up the ringing telephone. There's no way, possible shape, way, or how that this telephone should be ringing down here in the catacombs. That should be giving it away right away. Somebody picks up the phone, and it's a voice that they recognize as their father talking to them. And apparently this father person, he unalived himself, and they're going through all the guilt that they're dealing with, all of the guilt that their bodies are dealing with. And basically, their up is downing themselves to get out, they have to go down. But to go down is to go into this. Which makes you think, if this is some sort of mirror reality of Paris's catacombs and they're going down, which is actually up, is the ethereal other side literally a mirror of our own? If you were to, like, pass away here, would you, like, wake up here and continue? Well, I don't think so, because people die on both sides of this mirror reality of whatever, and people who are dying on this top side, they don't show up on this top side, but someone does. As we see in a backstory with our explorer characters, we have journalist lady, we have the cameraman dude, we have the translator dude, and these three make our good guy team. And then we have a team of like 1, 2, 3, 4. We have a team of 4 treasure hunter people that these three hire to help them explore the Patty's undercombs, you know, because they don't know how to explore the catacombs. They don't know the maps of the place, right? Because, you know, you're not supposed to go in the catacombs. So these guys are clearly rule breakers, and they go down into the Farfan and all that crap. So they have to requisition these guys, and they say, well, if you're going to find treasure down there, we want half. And they go like, well, you can have all of it, we just want to go down there. So they go down there. And as they're going down there, this guy, the leader man, we're going to give him a hat. The leader man here, the leader man tells them a story about his friend, cousin, friend, or whatever. Somebody that was very close to him was down in these catacombs, and he got lost. He went down a passageway that they shouldn't have, that was walled off, that he shouldn't have gone through, and he never came out. Well, some spooky crap happens when they first get down to these catacombs, and they're forced to go through this very doorway, this very same doorway that the guy's lost friend, Mr. Mystery Cousin Man. We're gonna put him on this side of the wall here. So Mystery Cousin Man went through this door and never came out, and he is presumed dead. So he's presumed dead over here on this side. Well, going through this doorway apparently symbolizes your journey into the mirror dimension, the Underdark, the other side, right? And as soon as you went through this doorway, they encounter the Cousin Man, and he seems to be okay. He seems to be fine. He seems to be alive. So now our group of characters are joining somebody who's supposed to be dead, and he's taking them further down towards Nicholas Flamel's tomb, right? So he takes us to the tomb, where he seems to be perfectly preserved, until we get to the mirror dimension, where he's not preserved. He's actually a corpse, a desiccated corpse. So what happening? What does this stone actually do? Is this stone actually being like a sort of portrait of Dorian Gray, where it's transferring all of your ailments to a you that's on the other side? I don't know. It's very interesting. This film is very average, but the concept, the story, the concept of what's going on here interests me to no end. I am very fascinated by what they're finding here. Now, there's some theories that people have saying that this is literally that the line that they go through with the Paris up here and the Paris down here, literally the journey from the top side into the Underdark is basically your travels through the 9 rings of hell, right? So you're going through this, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 rings of hell, and each ring you're confronted with your darker side, your darker path, and our characters here are each confronted with something the further down they go. So each ring that they passed, they come across something that they might have broken. So one of them is something like an atheist, so the first earliest passageway, Limbo, that's where they encounter our Cousin Man. The Cousin Man is in the Underdark because he's in limbo. He's the atheist. He wasn't necessarily a bad guy, but he just wasn't with it, you know? He wasn't with it. So he goes into limbo, which is just endless wandering around a mirror dimension, apparently. But he encounters our living counterparts here, so I don't know what's going on there. But, so, the theory is the further down you go, the more rings you encounter, and one by one, our characters start to die out. Greed, lust, betrayal. Finally, the betrayal one finally kills our leader man. The leader man had a brother or had another family member in a burning car. This burning car, he was perfectly capable of going to the burning car to save his brother man who was in here. So he's right here. He was perfectly capable of saving him, but instead of doing that, he just runs away. He runs away and lets the car burn to death, and the guy inside burned to death. So his sin, so to speak, comes back to haunt him in the deepest, darkest depths, in the deepest, darkest ring. That's where Leader Man dies. And eventually we're left with just the journalist lady, the interpreter man, and some other random dudo who's part of the treasure hunting gang. And this random dudo apparently did something that was very, very minor, and he admitted to his guilt, and he gets to be saved. The journalist lady, the treasure hunter who was looking for the stone, is mainly doing this to get closure for her father's death that she feels somewhat responsible for, because she didn't pick up a phone when her father was crying for help, and he was feeling kind of on edge to he was ready to hang out in the wrong way. So had she picked up the phone, she might have been able to save him from that fate. But she didn't do that. So she admits that story, and she manages to apologize to her father, and she gets to keep going through the deepest, darkest rings and make it from the bottom of the underbelly out to the other side, out of the sewer system and onto the surface, right? And so does our random dude and the interpreter man. So the interpreter man's sin, apparently he was a child, him and a family member were out on the swamp lands or whatever with the boat, and the family member of this dude, the interpreter man, falls into the water. He can't swim, and neither can he apparently, so he's like, I'm gonna go get help, and his family member drowns and dies. So I don't think he's necessarily guilty of that. He just ran to get help and he got lost trying to find help. So these three minor offenses, they get to be forgiven, and they admitted their guilt and they forgave themselves, and they go through. Now here is where my theory comes in, right? This is where my theory comes in. If this is like some sort of mirror dimension, if Nicholas Flamel's tomb is here and he's perfectly fine, and on the mirror side, in this dimension, his tomb is here and he's completely desiccated, this is the dimension where they go out of the cave through, since in this dimension, the cave-in happened, right? The cave-in happened and the exit's completely blocked off. So the only way they could get out was to go through the mirror dimension version of the cave, of the catacombs, of the Underdark. And they went out through going down, right? So are they actually in a sort of like mirror dimension where the Nicholas Flamel's corpse is still a corpse rather than perfectly preserved? That's something to think about. That's something to think about, right? And that's precisely why this whole this whole thing fascinates me so is there's so many questions you can ask. There's so much going on in such an average film, averagely shot, average dark, and to disguise the low budget, but they actually went into the underdark, the catacomby darkness, and they went through the undercombs, and they filmed in the undercombs, the abandoned undercombs, and I found this film to be absolutely fascinating. The story, the plot, the premise, the stone, the mirror dimension, all of it was just... ooh, very good. Be imaginative like this.